It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Lamar Thomas Show, featuring the greatest receiver in the history of college football. Just ask them, Lamar Thomas.
I was born in Ocala, Florida. I moved to Gainesville to go to high school. Been recruited probably since the 9th grade, illegally, I might add, by the University of Florida. I still can remember Coach Solinger, Don Solinger, coming out to our practice one day. Here it is, this guy comes out in the University of Miami jacket, and I said, I can't believe that's Miami out here. And, you know, I wanted to go up and say, hey, I'm Lamar Thomas. And actually, I did walk up to him and I said, hey, Coach, I'm Lamar Thomas. And he said, I know. And that was the start of my relationship with the University of Miami.
Another good block, and Toretto lays it out. Touchdown, Miami.
You come down here, you'll be on TV every weekend, dominating. I thought about it. I said, man, where do I sign? My mom, on Saturday mornings, I would wake up and she'd be holding my hand. I thought she was the weirdest lady in the world. But she was holding my hands and she would be rubbing them and saying, one day these hands are gonna make you a lot of money. She was smart.
So now, here he is, the great one, along with co-host Gary Ferman of CaneSport.com, Lamar Thomas.
What is going on, LT?
Just from my humble abode right here in Pembroke Pines.
Yeah, I'll be impressed if you can keep those kids upstairs for 2 hours. I'll be very, very impressed. You just tell them Big Sills is going to be in the house tonight. They can't interrupt buddy. Big Sills. But hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lamar Thomas Show. I see I got to fix something real quick here, which I'm going to do. There we go. Welcome to the Lamar Thomas Show on a Wednesday night. Once again, tonight's show is presented by Caneswear, your ultimate authority for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. Lamar is usually in the store, but tonight the store was not available, so he is in his living room. Very nice looking TV he's got there in the background, and you can see Caneswear behind me. And you know, we tell you guys this every week. If you need any type of Hurricane gear imaginable, whether it be a Cam Ward jersey, a T-shirt, hats, sweatshirts, magnets,
dog collars, whatever, anything with UM on it. I mean, they have it all. They doormats, anything, spatulas for your grilling. I mean, they got everything. Brett just buys it all.
He does buy it all. I don't know how he does it, but he buys it all. And you can visit them at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. It's about 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. So on game day, if you're going to the Rock, you can always go by Caneswear first and pick up yourself something new. If you don't live in town or you don't get to town often, Caneswear.com is where it's at, and you can shop their entire inventory there. We'll talk more about Caneswear later in the show, but Lamar and I cannot recommend Caneswear to you guys enough. Really the ultimate spot for any Hurricane fan to gear up, so to speak. I'll tell you, LT, I was watching the show open, and I see this, tall, lanky receiver running down the field, making all these plays. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, we could have used him on that Hail Mary play at the end of the game. We had Isaiah Horton out there bigger receiver was the idea. All of the Miami DBs are a little bit on the smaller side. So they recruited a receiver to come out there for the Hail Mary play. And he kind of got butt blocked out of it a little bit. And he still was able to contribute to the play falling apart. But man, we could have used a little Lamar Thomas or Horace Copeland, even little vertical on that play, huh?
Yeah, we back in the day we had a little something set up for it, but we never really got to the Hail Mary plays. So, but we practiced something similar to that, and to see Horton go in there and make that play contributed to a great night that he had. I think he even came away with the ball when when the play was all over. I think he actually ended up with the ball. So that was it was a good night for him. He had an excellent night. But those type of deals, we've seen them go bad. Back in a couple years ago when they had the Patriots, they had Gronk in there on a Hail Mary type situation, and he got exposed. So good to see it happen. Horton had a great night. Receivers had a good night, a great night. So I was happy to see him basically clinch the game as a receiver / DB.
So, yeah, it's true. So many things for us to talk about tonight about the game, and we will. If those of you out there have any comments or questions that you would like Lamar, ourselves, and IC will be on the show with us shortly to talk about, just feel free to post them in the comments. We will get to them. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we are going to be joined tonight by Dan Sileo, who I can tell you right now, to me, Lamar, in all the years that we've been doing this show, there's no better guest. And no disrespect to any of your former teammates, any other former Canes, but if you want to have a show at 8:00 on Wednesday night and you want people to enjoy it and be engaged, man, there is nobody better than Big Sills to have on. And he'll be with us in a little bit. I think everybody will enjoy that quite a bit. But so let's talk about the game. So,
all right,
absolute insanity. I was doing yard work in the afternoon before I went to the stadium, believe it or not.
Right.
And I wasn't even straining myself at all. And I mean, I was soaking wet. I mean, it was so humid. And the heat was just, the sweat was just pouring off of me to the point where I noticed it. I'm like, man, I didn't realize it was so hot out here, because, we're used to humidity and heat in South Florida. And then you get to the game and you see how hot it is on the field. I was down on the field before the game. And but we take it so much for granted down here, Lamar, because it's part of our everyday life. But this was a different kind of heat. This was a heat that was left over from the hurricane, I think, going through. And it was hot down there. Now, it looked to me, and this is not an excuse, like the bigs on Miami's team did not do a good enough job hydrating themselves as you drink your glass of water there. I got the impression they may have taken it a little bit for granted themselves, and maybe just didn't drink and hydrate their bodies the way they needed to. It looked to me like Virginia Tech, even though they had guys cramping up during the game, might have done a better job of that. And that the home field advantage that's supposed to be very much in the Miami camp in a situation like that, I didn't think it ever materialized. And as we noted, it was a fight to the finish, Miami fighting for its life to the last play.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a fight to the end. Virginia Tech had a good game plan. I think that Miami helped them out a little bit. Throughout this whole year, we've kind of stayed away from dumb penalties, but we were able to we had a couple of penalties that sustained their drives and did other things. I think that Mario wanted to run the ball to start the game off, but for some reason it didn't go that way. It didn't go that way, and we had to throw the ball a little bit. And Virginia Tech played their butts off. They're a team, as we talked about last week, that had returning 21 to 22 starters. And I think it finally showed up. Their experience kind of showed up in the beginning of that game. Here Here it was, their backs were against the wall. They get an opportunity on national TV against a national ranked opponent that everybody's watching, and they went out and they played. They had a great game plan, and they kind of stuck to it. But they kind of outcoached themselves at a point. With the fake field goal, I think to me that was a turning point in the game. That gave Miami some momentum, but it was one of those things where they were saying, hey, we're here to win the game. We're going to try to win it, and we're going to pull out all the stops. It's just that Miami made a great play, and that helped Miami win the ball game. But I give kudos to their coaching staff. I thought they had a good game plan. They really exploited some things. They moved that quarterback around. He was able to make some throws on the run. It was I had some people that are not fans say, hey, even though you guys won and I didn't want to see you win, it was a good game. It was a very action-packed game, and both teams came to play. And the better team, I think, was able to pull it out at the end of the game, whether it was the Hail Mary or not. I think that Miami showed in that fourth quarter that they could make some sustained drives and go down when it was on the line. They had some guys step up and make big plays.
I obviously watch a lot of football. I see a lot of coaches really hurting themselves these days, Lamar, and with a couple different things. Both applicable to this game. Two of them are very applicable to this game that I want to talk to you about. And the first I'll say is I find the coaches of today, they're like all caught up in these analytics. Mm-hmm. They don't respect points the way they should be respecting points. And Virginia Tech might have been in a little different spot if they had those 3 points on the board late in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Instead of throwing a Hail Mary into the end zone, they might have been kicking a field goal. If they had taken those points when they could have had them, and instead they went for it on fourth down, and Malik Bryant makes a great play and it gets stuffed. So that's one thing that comes to my mind that I'd love to hear you talk about. And then the other thing that and you were a receiver, you can talk about this for hours probably, but prevent defense. I see more teams and more defensive coordinators get burned after playing a relatively good game, an entire game, when they go to prevent defense late in the game and stop going after the quarterback, and they get picked apart. On the 16th of September, I was watching Monday Night Football. I'd have to look back and see what the teams were. But that very same thing happened, and I tweeted out that night 2 weeks earlier that when are defensive coordinators going to realize that prevent defense ruins careers? and I'm not saying Lance Guidry's career was ruined by going to prevent defense the other night, but what I'm saying is that offenses today are destroying prevent defenses to my eye. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I mean, if I'm a DC, man, I'm not going to prevent defense.
Well, you kind of know exactly where the holes are in prevent. It all depends on the scenario. Most of the time, they're trying not to let you get to the sideline. They're trying to keep you boxed in, and the plays across the middle are open. But today's guys, man, you think of this, just my opinion. Guys don't really practice tackling much because the game has changed. They don't really they don't. So now you catch the ball across the middle, and guy breaks one tackle, guy makes a bad read, and it could be to the house. I mean, it's just the prevent itself. Even back when I played, you kind of knew what was going on. You knew where the holes were. You knew, and it depended on the clock, how much time you have, and what was the scenario, how many timeouts you had. And you kind of could navigate your way in, every week. And when I went out to practice, they were going over the 2-minute drill. I mean, every week you do a 2-minute drill and you're trying to score. The defense obviously knows that you're trying to score. And it was tougher when they were in regular defenses, because like I said, exactly where those guys are in prevent. You know what they're trying to not give up. You know where the holes are. You know that if you catch the ball in the middle of the field, you either depending on the time, you either go down or you try to get extra yards. I mean, or you try to get to the hash that the kicker likes, because we know. I mean, there is some truth to that, Gary. But I think what those guys are staying away from, that if you're in a regular defense and the guy bombs you, you will be fired by the time you get to the locker room. So I think that's what they really try to stay away from, giving a team, let's say, for example, here's a great example, Alabama against Georgia. They weren't in prevent, and the guy throws the ball down the right sideline. Their freshman receiver makes a hell of a catch, spins, pirouettes, goes down the sideline and scores. Now, people are probably saying, why didn't Kirby go to prevent? That's why they usually go to force you to have to make those extra plays, and it might be a missed throw. With those most of the time, and I don't know what the number is on this, but 3-man line rush gets to the quarterback a lot. When you go 3-man line, somehow they always get to the quarterback somehow, some way.
Well, there was one play the other night where the quarterback had all day standing in the middle. I mean, he threw an incomplete pass, but on this particular play, if he had chosen the run, he had 30 yards of field in front of him. That there was nobody there. I mean, maybe we're protecting the sidelines and trying to keep everybody, but I mean, the whole middle of the field was open, and he scrambled. He would have had a big gain. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I grimace. I mean, listen, I grew up watching Dan Marino and shred defenses in the final 2 minutes of game. You gave Dan Marino the ball in the last 2 minutes of a game, you could be playing prevent all day long. It doesn't matter. He was gonna beat you. 9 times out of 10. And I've seen so many teams that control games the whole way and then let it gets away in the last couple minutes. Because in this case, Virginia Tech got the ball to 25. They're on 25 and ended up with 1:57 left in the game. They ended up to Miami 30, throwing in the end zone. And Lance joked about it the other day when we talked to him. He's like, man, when that ball's being thrown in the end zone on the last play, I don't like it. And it's his instinct to go after the quarterback. But the thing he did say was the reason he didn't do it in this situation was the guys that were rushing the passer all night long were not getting there. And that was so different, Lamar, from what we have seen this entire season. Miami was leading the nation in sacks a couple weeks ago. They have been getting to the quarterback. In this game, they didn't. I think it goes back to the heat. And I thought that the level of play up front was greatly diminished on both sides of the ball from what we had seen earlier in the year. And that's why we were where we were.
I think that, again, it goes back to what I talked about earlier. I thought Virginia Tech did an outstanding job with their game plan. They moved the quarterback around, quick throws. They made sure, and they moved away from some of the good pass rushers. And wherever 9 was, if I'm not mistaken, I think they doubled him sometimes, just to make sure. So they had a good game plan. I got to give it to them. They had a good game plan. And, the thing that I really come away from this game saying is, last year and the year before, we'd have lost that game. So I really believe that the leadership on their team, that quarterback with his cool, calm demeanor, and some of those players, Restrepo and those guys they're adding the leadership, and these guys are jumping on board, and they're figuring it out. Because I don't think last year or the year before, or even when Manny was here, we win that game.
Yeah. All right. Let me make a little room here, and let's bring in our man IC into the conversation here. Hello, IC. Welcome back to the Lamar Thomas Show.
Turn your mic on, IC. Turn your mic on. So we got to help the young guy.
Yeah. I think you're still on mute, IC.
Yeah, he is.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I just had the perfect intro, but I'm gonna do it again since you guys.
All right.
Go ahead. That was a rehearsal. Go ahead.
All right. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Some California love. Canes are headed out to the West Coast, baby.
So what's
I
up,
like
I
that.
see? What do you think about all this? Like we're sitting there watching this Hail Mary on the last play in the press box. We had Damari Brown up there with us. Don't ask me what the hell he was doing up there. It's pretty wild, huh?
It was wild. I don't know. I was nervous. I was shaking like a stripper in church. I was so nervous, man. I was like, are they really going to do this? Because, like I've been saying all season, I'm like, Gary, man, like this team is good. These last 2 years, like you always see like things like this happen. Like it finally caught up to them, ACC play. And then this happens. Because like you see that play, there's no way on this green earth that was created by the man above that should have been called a catch. Isaiah Horton got up from that pile with the ball in his hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's 6 different hands, grabbing on the ball, all this good stuff. And I'm just like, how do you call that a touchdown? And then when they review it, I'm talking to other guys in the press box. I'm like, they're going to call it a touchdown. This is going to be a riot. Like these fans are going to light, Miami on fire if they call this a touchdown. But, when he said reverse and he hit a 4-4 flat out the stadium, I said he made the right call. Get this brother home safe. But in all seriousness, man, it was a stressful game. But like you guys kind of touched on a little bit before, last year's Miami team, I said this. I was like, these guys are lost by 20, 21. Like last year's team got the score ran up on them. They go down 10. They have literally we saw this happen last year versus Virginia Tech. Obviously, they didn't lose by 20 because I think Georgia Tech is a far less good team or superior team than Virginia. I think Virginia Tech is a very, very good team. And I made jokes about, Miami's going to cover the spread against them and things like that last week. My bad, Hokie fans. You got me. I'm eating my words right now. You guys have a very good team, and I think you'll win some games. But, I just think that type of game is really, really, really needed versus, against a team like Miami that's really trying to find themselves. They're really trying to show, hey, we're not the old Miami teams in the last 10, 20 years that, would back down and kind of roll up into a ball if we got punched in the mouth. I've been asking for it all year. I said, man, I want to see these guys get challenged. Boy, did I get what I asked for, man, because I was in that press box, clutching my heart like, man. But glad to see, they came out with the W going out to the West Coast, California. I'm glad they're not playing a running quarterback for the third straight week. They get a break from that. So, looked into Cal a little bit. Good team, but not going to get ahead of myself with anything crazy like I did last week. So I'm biting my tongue a little bit. But I think Miami has a very favorable matchup in this one.
Hey,
well,
I agree. I see. I'm glad you brought that up about the running quarterback because just talking to Guidry today, he was like, no running quarterback. Whew. So he knows. He knows. There's 6-tool he left a comment saying USF's fast pace last week in the short week, humidity, and depleted with injuries. And yeah, there he goes. There could be some of that. There could be some of that, but you also got to give Virginia Tech credit. Again, they were a veteran team. They didn't start off the season well, and we talked about if they started off well, they might be okay. If we let them hang around, they might be okay, and that's what happened. They were able to get their confidence up. I mean, let's talk about the beginning of the fourth quarter too. When I don't know if you guys saw that, they were calling out. They walked to the middle of the field. And was like, yeah, like come on,
yes.
come on. Oh man, I was like, what? And I'm not calling this game? Oh, it would have been perfect. You don't come in our house. But the fact that Brent P, or what's his name? Whatever his name. Whatever his name. But he had those guys believing. They actually thought that, they were ready for the fourth quarter. What they didn't understand is that, fourth quarter for us, it's always been, this is our time. This is our moment. And now you take everything that you've done during that week and building up the preparation for this game, and you put it into that fourth quarter. So it kind of played right into, okay, I think I saw those guys say, this is what we want. Okay, this is what, and Michael Irvin, of course, he wanted to get in there too. But I think they kind of overstepped their boundaries a little bit and kind of ignited the fire in Miami's backside. And I think we need to thank them for that.
Well, I'll agree that we probably don't win that game last year. And And there's two words to the reason, and our buddy Dolph Van Derek, I think, is hitting the red on the nose. Cam Ward. I mean, that's the difference that one player can make. But there are so many things that I think we need to unwrap here tonight involving Cam Ward. Is he, and these are questions that, I want, hear your opinion on, LT, and you too. I'd say, like, are we getting to the point where success has come so easy for Cam Ward and he's putting up ridiculous numbers? I mean, if he keeps up this pace, I mean, the way he's going to obliterate the record books at Miami for a season are just insane proportions. Okay. But is he trying to do too much? Is he being asked to do too much? Did it get a little bit out of hand in the first half? Last week, he had 3 turnovers in the game. And is he audibling out of running plays to the point where the running game is not getting going in games? The biggest debate we have at CaneSport is Damian Martinez any good, or does he suck? And then we got the Cal coach saying that he's the best running back they saw last year. Well, he's not getting going here this year. And so I think these are all things that Mario has to unwrap this week. Not in the public arena, of course. You're not going to ever hear him discuss this with all of us out here. But I got to believe that in the cubicle, Lamar, of the coaches, these are all things they're discussing. Are they putting enough emphasis on the running game? They're going to need it at some point this year. Did they create a problem for themselves with those turnovers and an over-reliance on throwing the football?
Well, when you have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, a guy that's up for the Heisman, obviously you have to show his work, and he wants to show his work. But at the same time, you got on the defensive side, you want to be able to save those guys and not keep them on the field as long. So you need to establish that run, and it takes some of the pressure off of you that you don't have to force throws. I mean, those 2 interceptions he had were 2 bad throws. I mean, the one corner route where if he holds it just a little bit longer, the post is coming open. But I think he had it made up in his mind that he was throwing the Restrepo, and that was a bad throw. And then obviously the interception where they took it back about 60 yards, where Arroyo makes a hell of a play, probably a play of the game. That guy is really putting himself in a position to, if he stays healthy, to be able to maybe be a guy that plays on Sunday. But those were 2 bad throws, man, that he really hadn't made this year. And so, but if you're establishing that run, we probably don't have to make those type of throws. So they're going to have to figure out a happy medium of how they want to do this. We want him to have the numbers, but we also have to be smart enough to say, hey, we got to run this ball, because if we run the ball, it's going to open up the pass instead of coming out passing the ball first to try to open up the run, which, I would rather, me personally, in that game, and we talked about it last week, I would have rather established the run, lean on them a little bit, lean on their defense a little bit. You got them, you got the bigger guys, lean on them a little bit, then go to the pass. But, I'm not the coach, and obviously they came out with their own game plan, and luckily we were able to, at the end of the game, pull this one out.
Well, that's Mario's instinct, exactly what you're talking about. And that was a bit of a wake-up call last week, I think, and I'm pretty sure, I'll be surprised if that's not something that changes a little bit. Shannon Dawson talked about it this week. Like, they know they're going to need the running game at some point. But listen to these numbers, Lamar. Okay, Cam Ward is on a pace right now to finish with 4,277 passing yards with 43 touchdowns. 4,277. Now, the Miami passing record is Bernie Kosar in 1984 with 3,642. So he's going to obliterate that if he stays on this pace. And the largest number of touchdown passes in a season was Steve Walsh with 29 in 1988. And he's on pace to have 43 touchdown passes. Okay. I mean, just like insane numbers he's putting up. Let me start with you on this one. Has it been too easy for Cam Ward? And is that now becoming a little bit of a factor as Miami goes into tougher competition and plays better teams?
It's a good question. I don't think it's been too easy, but I think this is their first real challenge of the year versus their real first good challenge of the year versus a good Virginia Tech team. That's tough. I mean, obviously, Ball State, was not a good team. FAMU was not a good team. USF was not a team that competed with Miami. But I do think he has a talent where he makes other defenses look not as good as they're supposed to look. I think he is one of, if not the best quarterback in the country. I don't think he has any, he can't control who he's playing or, what a defense does or anything like that. If he sees something, he's taking advantage of it. So I wouldn't say it's been too easy for him, but I do think we might see these numbers slow down a little bit when we get an ACC player, when we play a little bit of tougher teams, just because, the factor of familiarity and, obviously teams are making every ACC game their Super Bowl. I feel like this is kind of off topic, but I feel like every other game or every game there's a kid from Miami that, is looking to get revenge against the Hurricanes, or a kid that played at Miami, transferred away and things like that. So every single game that Miami plays, here on out is going to be a game where, like, these guys are the number one of the ACC, this, that, we're going to give our best. And, I think that's kind of going to factor into things, but I don't think it's been too easy for him up to this point. I think he's just that good of a player where it looks easy, on his part.
Lamar, when you're putting up these kind of numbers, can the little things start falling through the cracks? Do you start taking the success for granted?
Well, we didn't really put up those type of numbers back then. This was this is uncharted water as far as putting up numbers. He's having a phenomenal year so far. These guys are making plays all over the place. We ran the ball. We had one game against Penn State, I think my senior year, where they were dropping everybody. So we had to run the ball. And even myself, who considered myself like 7-Eleven, always open, you know what I mean? Open 24 hours a day. But I had to tell Coach Harrison, he said, "What do you see, Lamar?" I said, "Nothing. Keep running it. It's 8 guys back there. You got to run the ball." I mean, but that was the winning spirit. I didn't, at that time, you don't care about stats because you want to get out of it with a win. I knew how important winning was to our program. So it's one of those happy mediums. I mean, you got a quarterback that is going to and wants to put up these numbers, and you want these numbers, but you also have to be smart enough to say, you know what, let's run the ball, take a little time off this clock, give our defense a little rest. And, because you don't want, as the season goes on, lingering injuries turn into injuries, true injuries, because guys are fatigued. You know what I mean? Especially on the defensive side, where we can't, we got depth right now, but this is a long season, and you don't want guys to go down. And I mean, we already had Bain out for four games, and he's coming back now. So, I mean, they got to figure it out. You got to somehow stay balanced. And another thing, you don't want that defense to say, well, we'll just drop everybody because he has to make throws. Kind of like, I've always said this, going back from when Geno won the Heisman, I always said the Heisman Trophy should be given out after the season's over, because if you give it out before the season's over, that guy has a lot of pressure in him that next game. He has to show his worth. He has to show. You think about Benny Testaverde against Penn State. They were rushing 2 people, but he had to throw the ball because he won the Heisman Trophy. Geno had to drop back and throw. Well, he was running for his life, but he had to drop back and throw against Alabama. I mean, it's just it's a crazy type situation. I want to see him do well, but I also want to see those running backs get involved, because we got a stable full of running backs, and you got to keep those guys happy, because if you don't, everybody is going to be coming in and saying, "Hey, we want you."
Well, yeah, it's the dynamics are incredible. I mean, you got Cam Ward here, and he, it has been very easy. He's putting up huge numbers. He goes into the week as the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. They create weekly betting odds now, Lamar. And he's the favorite for the Heisman Trophy, and you're absolutely right. He wants to put up big numbers, and if he sees an opportunity to throw the ball, he's throwing it, and he's been given a free rein to audible. And he, if he thinks he sees the pass play, he's going to opt for the pass play. And they're just going to have to, I think, channel all of this a little bit. And listen, this is a football season. There's a lot of ebbs and flows. Things happen. There's nothing wrong with having to make these adjustments along the way. But that was something that I felt I was noticing at Hard Rock Stadium on Friday. And I will be shocked if it's not an adjustment that we see made when they show up on Saturday night at Cal.
I'm looking at this question from Joel, who's saying, yeah, we should have been up 21-7. You're right. It was a bad call. And he was throwing the ball. I get it. But it also caused us to have some bad interceptions that put them in the game, got them back in the game. And so, if you run the ball and you run it effectively, I didn't think it was the best game our O-line played. I really didn't. They didn't play as well as I thought they were going to play, especially against a smaller but quicker Virginia Tech line, because we talked about this last week about how they had returning guys and they had two guys on the line. They were really good and they were going to make plays, and they did make plays. But, you got to find some type of happy medium as far as the running and passing. I mean, you don't want the guy to go out and throw 80 times and only run the ball 20% of the time. That's not going to bode well for your running backs. Then you're going to be dealing with those guys not being happy.
Yeah. But, when the quarterback's the favorite for the Heisman, he's now being talked about as a first-round draft pick, and he's got about a $35 million contract sitting out there waiting for him in another 6 months or so. These are all dynamics that have to be managed. There's no doubt about it. All right. We gave you the build-up at the beginning of the show, and now that time has come to bring on a guy that, I have been so impressed with the way he has carved out his career in the media. Just an absolutely incredibly knowledgeable dude. He brought in just amazing passion as a player, and he brings it now to the microphone, and that is Big Sills, Dan Sileo, who we welcome back to the Lamar Thomas Show. Sills, thank you so much for carving out your time tonight. Always a special time when you come on the show.
I just tell you, I would, you guys, I get 1,000 opportunities to do things, and I'm not that I'm like some sort of diva, but then again, I went to the University of Miami, so maybe I am, and maybe that's what kind of put me in that room like that. But when it comes to you guys, and of course Lamar, and he's like, and I'm like, man, 4 hours a day I do on my show now, and I go, of course, I'll always do it for you guys. And Gary, I mean, you've been a big proponent of the program. And, you were a fan of what we were doing when we were on QAM. So absolutely, anytime you guys call, I'll be there.
Well, I tell you this, man, years past, we've had you on and we've had to go back and talk about your career and all this stuff because we had nothing to talk about. But,
that's right.
All we do was talk about careers and stuff. But now this is uncharted water. We haven't been here in a while. So go ahead and dive on in, baby.
Yeah, I feel it a little. You see, you got to remember, man, Lamar and I, every week was a chapter in an iconic year for our program when we played. It's funny. I've got to sit here and give guys kudos for doing something they haven't done in 24 years. Excuse me if I'm old man, get off my lawn. So please I don't want to sound like old man guy here and back in the day and all of that. But what I've had to do is unfortunately temper myself because we've seen nothing but crappy football for the last 24 years. Now we have something here that I can hang my hat on. And it starts with the defensive tackles, and it starts with what they have done on the defensive side of the ball and in the offensive line. These guys now are dominant at the point of attack. I think we've always had decent skilled players at the University of Miami. Hell, when you're in South Florida, how could you not have skilled players in South Florida, right? But my problem was that we were getting out recruited by the Southeastern Conference programs and the O-line and D-line, and now we're making plays. You know, Lamar, my only problem with the portal is that you don't get a true commitment to the program. But this year, I feel that, you know, they look at everybody, but I think they took the right guys. The guy, not everybody can play at Miami. You know, when I hear people wanting to transfer out of Miami, I'm like, what? I mean, that was like Rome. You wanted to go to Rome. You didn't want to get out and go somewhere. I mean, that's not what that thing is. And I really think Mario has really done a nice job at building culture, bringing the right players in. And to me, I'm seeing ass kickers out there. I really like what I see. And by the way, this guy, Cam Ward's the best quarterback that we've had, in my opinion. He's better, 10 times better than Ken Dorsey. I think he's better than Craig Erickson. I think this goes back to Vinny. I mean, he's in that room with Vinny, and I love Craig. I mean, Craig had the greatest attitude of all time. You know, they were recruiting a guy by the name of Jeff George, and he was trying to transfer from a program. I'll never forget Craig Erickson going like this. We brought him down. I guess he took a limo down, and we were taking him around on a recruiting visit. And I go, so you coming to Miami? I think he was from Cardinal Newman.
Cardinal Newman, yes.
Okay, and so he comes and he's like, he goes, I hear they're recruiting Jeff George. I don't care if they recruit John Elway. This is going to be my team. And I said, you're the perfect guy. I remember going back to Jimmy and telling him, you need to recruit this guy and you need to sign this guy, because this guy understands when it comes to coming to the University of Miami what he wants to accomplish here. And I always really liked that about Craig. And, you know, and I admired that. That's the kind of players, man. They all wanted to come here. Dude, I don't know what's happened to like St. Thomas. So St. Thomas is like a pipeline for Ohio State. What? I mean, what is that?
St. Thomas, Chaminade, they're all, I mean, they're guys coming in here, man, trying to steal these players, and some really, really good players.
Because I'm going to tell you why, Lamar, and hopefully this doesn't rile too many people up, and I'll try to not call him a scumbag, but I'll use this word. Let me think. I'll say this. That guy, Larry Coker, he destroyed every pipeline we had at Miami, because when he got rid of Don Solinger and we didn't have those connections into like Palmetto, into Edison, into places like that, into Woodrow Wilson, and he destroyed all that. This guy thought he knew how to reinvent the wheel. I'm like, hey, Larry, you were a substitute teacher. They gave you the job. Sit there and shut up. Okay? He never got that. And that's why the only guy I've ever seen with 2 national championships and get fired. You know why? He sucked. He didn't know what he was doing at the University of Miami, and that's why he was blown out. I'm rambling.
No, that's good stuff. I got a question for you. So you're a national media guy. What is the national media saying about the Hurricanes? Because we're down here. We know what we're saying, but what is the national media saying about the Hurricanes?
So I vote on the top 25. I put them third this week. They're going like this. Well, that's just your bias. I'm like, no shit. I go, no shit. What do you think I'm going to do? Vote them 25th? I go, that's not going to work. I go, you got the wrong guy here. And they're like, so you think they're the third best team in the country? I said, well, I'll tell you what I do think. They're better than Michigan. They're better than Ole Miss. They're better than a lot of teams out there who you think that the University of Miami is not better than because of the quarterback. The quarterback has completely changed the narrative of that program. I'm going to say this to you guys. Can you name me a quarterback that was drafted out of the University of Miami? Gary, you know this better than anybody. Thinking about when I was at UM, okay? Hey, well, Izubee, is that how you say her name?
I see.
We just call him IC.
He's
IC.
Because you're a young kid here, and I'm going to show you something. You know what I had at Miami? So I had Jim Kelly, I had Bernie Kosar, I had Vinny Testaverde, and I had Steve. These guys were all on the same team. Those were our quarterbacks. And I'm going like, well, we're quarterback you. Now, can you name me a quarterback, Gary, in the last 24 years who was a pro-worthy quarterback? The answer's none, because none of them made it.
None.
This kid, Cam Ward, has changed the room. Miami has failed at drafting defensive tackles and quarterback. And now that they've brought this kid in, they signed. Hey, I'm so happy they didn't go DJ.
Oof.
I thought DJ was going to be the guy.
No.
Okay, because he did pretty good at Oregon State last year. But that guy's a train wreck right now.
Total train
I mean,
wreck.
look at, by the way, how awesome is it that Florida and Florida State sucks? I mean, seriously, if like you burned both those places down, I would be so thrilled to death. I mean, I don't even call what the place with the alligator farm. What's the guys? Gators, right? Don't play. Hey, I'm so thrilled they suck. I'm so happy. I can't wait to run them over, Florida State, and beat their ass this year, man. I cannot wait.
Did you watch the Virginia Tech game?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
Virginia, there's always schools that play us tough. I don't know what it is with that joint. I'm so happy that thing wasn't in Blacksburg, because that place is out of hand. When you go there, Metallica's playing. I mean, all that BS. That's a tough-ass place to play.
It is.
I'll tell you, man. But am I right, Lamar? Virginia Tech always plays us tough, man. No matter if they suck or whatever, that game is always close. Gary, there's always so many teams out there that, you always have, like we have Florida State's number, or we always did have Florida State's number when we played. I mean, they'd be undefeated, number one, and we beat the pants off them and beat the doorknobs off them. And they always thought that they were great, but they weren't, because we had their number. Florida was always a little different kind of deal. But to answer your question, I thought Virginia Tech played really a good game. They could run the ball. By the way, the play at the end of the game came down to the fact the guy was out of bounds. It was an illegal play. I mean, it had nothing to do. The guy caught it, but still the kid had the ball in his hand, and he was out of bounds. Hey, it's about time that we got a break from them ACC scumbag refs. I mean, usually we get the other hose job, so now we got the benefit. Hey, that's 1 in 700 that you jobbed us in.
So, hey, before you came on, we were talking about the quarterback a lot. And, we were just wondering, like, has it become like the new toy that we're overusing? Do we need to get back to establishing the run and taking some of the load off of him, as great as he is?
I think, Gary, that will work its way out as game situations dictate, depending on what you see week in and week out. I think they got a good understanding of it. But, hey, let me ask you this. Would you rather have the ball in the hands of the most powerful guy and the best offensive player, or would you put it in some third-team offensive running back or some wide receiver guy that you don't trust? I want the ball in his hands, because I'll tell you what, there's a calmness about him that I dig. I mean, nothing gets too high, too low for him. And you know what I love about his journey? This guy wasn't recruited by anybody. I mean, this guy played like Division 72 football because nobody gave him a scholarship. He goes to Washington State. He jumps in the portal. He goes, hey, you're going to be a fifth rounder if you go into the NFL right now. Somebody smart. Unfortunately, our University of Miami guys, they jump in the portal and they're taken as free agents, UDFAs. And I'm like, who gave you that advice? I mean, when I left college, I was the 55th player taken. I had a year left. I was a junior. I'm going like, damn, I didn't go in the first round. But I'm not, I mean, you're sitting there listening to some of these guys. So he goes back into the portal. Mario said something. I talk to Mario weekly. Mario goes, what do you think of this kid? I go, hey, man, I love his journey. This guy came back and went in the portal because he wants to up his draft stock. I go, I don't know what it's going to look like. And I know there were other guys out there that people wanted, but when I saw him in that Gator game, I don't care what the Gators look like. Man, when you go into that place, like Lamar knows this, when you go into that place and you can kill them, beat them, take their women, drink their beer, beat the hell out of them. That is one of the greatest things you can ever do in your life. The greatest thing is going up there and stopping a 25-game win streak. I remember walking off the field looking, going, how you doing?
I got to tell you, it was a great experience to be able to walk out of that stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Victorious, and to see all those Gator fans
crying.
Really.
I saw your post. I loved it. Hey, as a Connecticut guy, Gary, when I first got down there, I went to Doak Campbell. I had never seen anything like it, right? So I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, they turn the lights off at Doak. I'm like, what are they doing? All of a sudden, this horse comes out. They turn the lights off. This guy comes with a spear. My dumb asses. I'm standing almost midfield. This guy takes his spear and almost throws it between my legs. I'm like, holy shit. This is really something else. This is a little different down here. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that thing was something, man. Those were fun times, and I think we're getting back to that a little bit. I feel really good about this team now. My question is, do you know how to handle success? Okay, each week, and the one thing that you always remember about our teams was that we were in the light. One of the things that Alabama teams were always, and now Georgia. They play big games every week. Everyone, yours a big game every week. Georgia, whomever it is that you play. So you've got to learn how to handle success. And what I mean by that is, man, you can't take anybody lightly. It's 60 minutes of football. Lamar, how many times were we in the middle of a season? Someone would go, hey, you're 6-0. And I'm like, really? I had no idea what our record was. I just knew that Jimmy had us ready each and every single week that we were going to go play. Oklahoma, Penn State, Nebraska, no matter Notre Dame, no matter who, we just didn't really know what our record was because every week we had to show up and we had to play our best football. Usually our best football was played, right, Lamar, on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Yes, it was.
Usually our C game was played on Saturdays.
Yes. And I want to go back to what you said about the not knowing the record. You knew you hadn't lost by you didn't get killed in practice, because that's when they could kill you, literally kill you, run your tongue out, curse you out, and then run your tongue out some more, and then curse you out some more, and then run your tongue out some more. And there was no time limit. So class, if you had a 7 o'clock class, you might not have made it that.
No. Here was really the coolest thing. In my 3 years at UM, we had to do up downs if we got beat by the point differential. In my entire life, I did 14 up downs in 3 years. So that's all I remember is that, hey, you have to do up downs. And I'm like, well, we were undefeated. Okay, we were 10-1 in 85. We were 10 and we were 11-0 in 86, and we were undefeated in 86. And I just remember that we never did up down. I mean, I did 14 up downs, I think, because we got beat by Florida in 85. We started the streak. Our group started the streak. Yes. And then the other guys carried it through. But we started with a loss to Florida in that opener. I'll never forget. We wore orange pants, and they were orange. The place was orange. I'm like, what? It was a train wreck that night. Gary, you were probably there.
I was there.
Yeah, that's when Kerwin, and then I broke Kerwin's neck the next year, which I loved.
Didn't miss a single play of Sileo ball.
Hey, absolutely, man. That was where playing next to Jerome Brown and those guys was. I mean, it was just crazy. And I remember setting a different type of tone there. Jerome and I, we go into Norman, we break Aikman's leg. I mean, it was just a different world. You know what? Hey, Gary, how do you think our team would be dealt with today with social media?
Oh my God. How about NIL?
If I lived in today's NIL, I'd have a pizza place on every corner in South Florida. It'd be called Big Sills. Big Sills Pizzeria. Okay. Can you imagine Playmaker being down in South Florida, or Jerome down in South Florida? Jerome would have a car dealership because he needed cars. So we would be there. I mean, hey, just so you know, everyone, our parking lot, I remember Rick Riley from Sports Illustrated coming in. Maybe you remember this, Lamar. He goes, Mercedes, Corvette. I drove a Corvette.
I remember that.
Corvette. My first car was a Corvette. I had 11 miles on it. Anthony Abraham, I love you. So I'm going like this. Hold on. We had Corvette, Mercedes, Grand National. Jerome had a Grand National and a Beamer. And Rick Riley goes, whose cars are these? The coaches? I go, no, that's my Vet over there. It's got 4 miles on it. I just got it 2 days ago. Where'd you get it? I found it.
What would Lamar have had? What do you think?
Lamar would have been in a Bentley. Are you kidding me, man? And you know what it said on the back? Kiss my Miami can.
And what kind of business? What do you think?
Oh
Business,
man,
let me see here, man.
I think I would have bought the club. I think I would have bought Luke's
Yeah, no,
club.
you know what it would be? It'd be the booby trap. That's what it would be.
You would have had Luke give you strawberries.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and strawberries
I
would
would
have
have
been.
bought
Hey,
strawberries for sure.
well, you see, I'm Italian, so you know what they say about Italians. I'm not a white guy, man. White guys don't run as fast as me, so we're all good. That's what Jerome said.
Oh
Hey,
my God.
Sills, so we, just a continuation of what you're talking about. We were talking earlier. Cam Ward is on pace for 4,277 passing yards and 43 touchdowns. The Miami record is Bernie Kosar, 36-42, and Steve Walsh for 29 touchdown passes. He is on pace to have 43 touchdown passes. The most ever at Miami was 29. I mean, it's just unfathomable what this kid has been doing in the first part of the season.
Gary, do you know who the top two quarterbacks are in Dallas Cowboy history when it comes to yards and touchdowns? It's Tony Romo and it's Dak Prescott. It's not Roger Staubach.
Wow, I would have
not Tony Romo, and it's not Troy Aikman.
I would have said Troy Aikman for sure.
No. So
wow.
Hey, great. You know what? Sounds
Modern
like
day
a really
football.
great year. I hope he fulfills everything. But the only thing I hope he is undefeated at the end of the year when we're at the end of the regular season and we go into the college playoff. I think the kid is great. I really do. I think he's the best, like I said, quarterback we've had in the building. Not because of the numbers, but because of the attitude.
Yes.
You know what? For me, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it. I think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. And I think Shedeur Sanders is obviously going to go in the top 5 picks. But personally, I think the best player in the country is Travis Hunter. But I would say that I like Cam because you know why? Cam, to me, the one thing that bugs me about Shedeur, he won't throw the ball away. You know why? Because he knows he's paid on numbers. And he knows he'll be drafted on numbers. Instead of just throwing the ball away like Bernie would, not giving his team a minus play, Shedeur will take a minus play. Cam won't. That's the separation there that I like from him versus Shedeur. Shedeur's counting numbers and counting completions and counting completion percentage because he knows he's not going anywhere with that Colorado program.
Right.
Cam knows right now that he can't take minus plays. Minus plays kill you against Virginia Tech, and you're going to lose games like that. So I think he's got a better sense of the field, and I think he's got a better sense of how to win. I mean, look, and I'm not here to talk shit on Shedeur, but I just think he has a better understanding of the game when he's out there.
Here's a question for you. And how many times have you been asked this? Is the you back? And how do you answer that?
I will not. People ask me that every day, and I will not answer that. I will not answer that until I have conviction on something. Virginia Tech's not conviction. What do you want me to do? Congratulate you for what? Not losing the roadkill? I mean, Virginia Tech is roadkill. I mean, holy cow, I've got to sit here. Hey, congratulations, you survived Virginia Tech. I'm like, great. Okay. I mean, hey, all I remember was Gary and Mark and everyone. I mean, you probably a young man. You probably saw films of us when we were out with Luther over down at the Fountain Blue having those big ass parties down there. That I'm not going to at liberty say anything about Lamar, but when we had the top 2 floors, we were there having a good time. All I remember was, hey man, how many points we give up? About 100, I think. How many points you score? Oh, about 4. And hey, did we win? Yeah, man. I got a couple national championships back there. How you doing? Look at them. They're right over there.
No, I definitely know a little bit of something. I told Lamar the first time they had me on the show, I was like, man, I used to watch this 30 for 30s. I was like, this is crazy. Now it's honestly crazy to me just meeting everybody that I used to watch when I was like 10, 11. I probably shouldn't be watching some of that stuff because you guys did have some time. And I was like, Miami, this is easy.
My daughter, she goes like this. She's like, was it really like that? Crazy? And I go, what made it great was the winning. I mean, it was just like Camelot, man. I mean, Gary, right? I mean, we could walk into bars. People didn't like the Dolphin guys would come up to us. Hey, can you get us in? down at the Grove, and we'd be like, yeah, man, how come you can't get in? What are you talking about here? I'm talking to like, hey, I'll get you. The Canes guys, when we were winning, that community, for whatever reason. However, I will say this. Hey, really nice job by the community of the University of Miami and also the city of Miami for putting that piece of shit stadium down there for the Marlins. We were promised that the Marlins were going to be competitors and win World Series and also have money to be able to spend on the team because they were given that property. Well, guess what? You knocked down the Orange Bowl and you took away civic pride from our University of Miami. Okay? That's just a PSA and a public service announcement. That's all I'll say about the Orange Bowl, because they got us out there in the suburbs like we're like high-priced white dudes or something now, and we're over here like in Winter Garden over here now. I'm like, Miami's in Winter Garden? Isn't that like suburban white guy? And we're like, we're not down, and we're not down in like Little Havana where we should be. I hated that whole thing. So it was just a great time, man.
Hey, so you talked about it. What does this football team, in your eyes, from what you've seen, need to do to get to where you're talking about, to get to where it's significant at the end of the season?
Mario has to keep the culture going and building a culture, and it comes with winning. These guys here, what I love about this group, Gary, is that they really love playing at UM. This is the first group I feel that feels the UM tradition, the power, what the program can mean. Dude, when you look at what goes on every single offseason in the NFL, look at all the Hall of Famers that are continually going in still to this day. And we haven't been good in 24 years. Yeah. And we got guys, every year we have dudes rolling into the Hall of Fame. I say in the next 5 years, we'll have more people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame than any program that's ever been eligible to go into the Hall of Fame. And I think those guys all loved it. Do you see Michael Irvin on the sidelines?
Oh, my God.
I mean, did you see that? Dude, I text him. I go, are you okay? And he goes like, he's like, well, did you expect anything different? I go, no. You're the same teammate you were 35 years ago. He was that same way. Back then, he'd come down to the defense. He'd talk his shit. He'd do this and that. And we're like, and I saw him on the sidelines. I go, Mario, what'd you think? He goes, no, I loved it. Because Mario accepts it. He likes that kind of stuff. You know, Alonzo Highsmith, he goes, what'd you make of that? I go, I loved it, man. Hey, Lamar, how many times on the sidelines where you sit there and look over and there's Jerome, there's Winston, there's Cortez, there's all these dudes on the sidelines coming back home to like spur on these guys and push these guys. Hell, I mean, even Don Smith used to come by, Gary, and he used to come by. By the way, I mean, all those great players used to always come by, and they used to always give us encouragement. Jim Burt would come by and give us encouragement. It was really great to see, and I loved seeing Michael Irvin do that.
Well, I can tell you this. When Michael Irvin came downstairs, I went upstairs because there was no need for me. There was no need. So I've been on the sideline for every game. But once I saw the playmaker, there was no need for me to even be down there.
Because he's uncontrollable.
Yeah, he's uncontrollable.
He just loses his marbles over UM football. Hey, Gary, Lamar, I'm going to tell you a story about Ted Hendricks. So I got to Miami, and I mean, Ted Hendricks was one of my childhood idols. I mean, Jack Tatum's probably my biggest idol, the assassin. And I remember him, and Jimmy used to come. He used to show up drunk every practice. He'd drive that. Remember that blue convertible 63 vet he had? He'd drive that thing here, and Jimmy come walking over to me going, hey, your boy Ted Hendricks is here. I go, great. He goes, no, he's drunk. Not great. Can't be around the guys. So I go, what do you want me to do about it? He goes, he loves you. We're selling out. And so I go over to him. I go, Ted, listen, man. Can't show up to practices hammered like this. He goes, a few drinks over at Strawberry over in Causeway, on the Causeway. And I'm like, dude, you can't be drunk here, man. This is not a good look. He goes like this, you know what, Sileo? I could take you out with one of these. And I'm going like, come on, man. I'm in the middle of practice, 3-hour practice. Ted Hendricks is doing this shit. My coaches are looking at me. Butch is going like, some friend he got there, kid. I'm going like, I'll tell you what, he could line up and kill anybody on this field right now. and I'm going like, hey, man. So we put him in a cab, sent him home, but he would always – we had guys like that showing up all the time. Hey, you remember, Lamar, that Jimmy would bring boxers like to the practice, and he would bring Sugar Ray Leonard. He brought Ali one year. When Ali showed up one year, so Ali shows up to practice, Alonzo and I are like, holy shit, there's my idol. Oh, my God. We all gravitated to – he came in there. He goes, you guys think you're the best? I go, we all thought we were Muhammad Ali because we were inspired by him, and he inspired all of us to talk so much shit back in the day. And he had a gym. Remember, Gary had a gym down in South Florida. Angelo had a gym down there, and we would go down and see him training down there. Yep, we would go down there, and I mean, the Beast Mugabe would show up. I mean, Jimmy would bring all these boxers. One year they brought Buddy Ryan down, and Buddy Ryan got the job at Philly. And so Jerome and I remember Norman Brayman, who owns the Cadillac dealership, owned the Eagles back then. And I remember we're sitting there, Stubbs and I, Buddy comes walking up, the three of us. He goes, Sileo, Brown, Stubbs, come with me. And this guy was the inventor of the 46 defense.
46 defense, yeah.
So I'm going like this. Okay, so we're sitting in there. He goes, that's lazy. See that? We gave up like 100. We gave up like 38 yards that year. We were the number one defense in the country. That sucks, kid. See that? That's a shit effort. Hey, Jerome, taking plays off? We're sitting there going, I'm looking at Butch going, we were undefeated. I'm going, it was just, Jimmy used to bring all those guys to inspire us. It was, and I think Mario's doing a lot of that right now.
He is.
And I think he's bringing a lot of that culture back. And Miami feels like Miami again. You know, Lamar, it feels like Miami again.
Yeah, I've said it over and over again that, you know what? I'm going to ride this horse because we've been down so long that I am enjoying every minute. And life feels so much better when Miami's up there, where people are, I say, embrace the hate. They're hating. So it's like we're back to normal again.
Oh, no. When people hate us, hate I know college football's in a good place.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Embrace the hate because it's a beautiful thing right now.
Oh God, yes, man. So Chris Zorich is like, so hey, looks like your program's back. I'm like, that's bad for you. And he goes like this. He goes, why is that bad for me? I go, well, I hate to tell you, Chris, I was on the field when we gave you the worst ass beating in Notre Dame history. 58-7, just so you remember, okay? We were running triple reverses with 2 minutes left in the game and beating your ass. He goes, yeah, we know, but we beat you. I go, not really, but okay.
Why do you think everybody uses that word back? Like that's all you hear about Miami. Is Miami back? Is Miami back? It's every year. That's the question.
You know what really is the craziest moment in our program's history is that think about Ohio State from that stupid flag at the shitty Fiesta Bowl, which I hate to this day, and I'll never. And I like the guys there who run it. They send me a whole bunch of stuff, but I will never go to Tempe as long as I live. Just know that I will never go to Tempe. But look at the two programs, Ohio State and Miami, from that time when that flag was thrown. Ohio State has gone on to a different level. And Ohio State wasn't that good after Woody. I mean, they went through the Bruce, what's his name, era. They went through him. Then they went through a bunch of losing with John Cooper. They weren't really super great. And Miami's program fell off the map. And my biggest problem was after we left the Big East and after actually we were independent, we got into the sorry-ass ACC. I mean, the ACC is not a football conference. You build nuclear bombs in the ACC. I mean, Duke, Wake Forest, you build debate teams there.
You got to add Stanford now. Stanford.
Stanford and Cal. Wow, I really feel smarter now that my football program. I mean, think about it. You make senators and debate teams at Stanford and Cal. You don't make football teams. That's not a football conference. And I think the kids in South Florida looked at it and went, where do I get the most exposure? Who do I play against the best competition? Where am I going to get paid because of home attendance? That's going to be the SEC. And that's what's happened. We got in that shitty ass ACC only because, you know why? Donna Shalala and that other guy, the former athletic director guy who thought he knew what UM football was, a guy who built Wisconsin football. What would he fucking know about Miami football? I mean, that guy built Wisconsin. Great. Wisconsin who? And then I'm going, what's that? And then Donna Shalala is like, well, let's get into this conference so we could build our basketball program up. Great. We're a basketball program. I mean, they did more for the basketball program, joining the ACC and building that program up. And what they did was they took a piece of the University of Miami away football program and they put it at the expense of the football program.
But everyone wants to know, is it back? Is it back? People IC's age who don't even know what it means, who weren't here when Miami was dominating college football. They want to know, is the U back?
This is when you're back right here. When you're
he's taking deep there, Lamar.
Okay. I'll let you know when you got one of these if they're back. Yeah, okay. I'll let you know when you got one of these. Okay.
That's exactly what I said.
Hey, when you got one of these bitches, Gary, I'll let you know when we're back and shit. Okay. I mean, right? All right.
What do you think I see?
I think people say that for clicks, to be honest. It's like it's just an easy title. It gets people going. It's gonna drive, people to your site and whatever you're gonna be at. I think that's just the easy way just to, stir up some news if it's a slow day. Say, is Miami back? And then you get the people saying, oh no, all this, and you get the people defending him. I think it's just an easy way to get the news.
Always remember this: the Dolphins must suck if they're saying, is Miami back?
They are pretty bad, man.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad, Seals.
Hey, the Dolphins. Oh yeah, I forgot the guy with the Hello Kitty backpack and all that other stuff down there, man. I mean, hey, look, I love the guy that with the Hello Kitty backpack and he drives like a powered car that he has like a UV on, and he plugs his car into his cell phone, and he drives it around and he tries to tell you you're tough. The Dolphins are soft as they're the softest team in the league, man. They haven't been tough since he's been there, since Brian Flores was there. Brian Flores brought an attitude. Look at Minnesota right now. You think there's any coincidence what they're doing up in Minnesota right now, the way they're playing defense? I think that guy's a really good play caller, but I think Miami's soft. And Tua, you can't build a championship team around a guy who's going to be a bag of Skittles in about 3 months. I mean, you can't do it.
You're so compassionate.
Compassionate? You must be talking about the NFL, of course, Gary. Compassionate? Oh, yeah. Hey, no, right? God. Hey, Lamar, because the NFL is compassionate.
Oh, yeah. This is why I love Seals, man. You're definitely the best. I let me tell you something.
I haven't changed, have I?
No, not at all. You are UM because people either love you or they hate you.
Now you're sounding like my wife. She says the same thing. Hey, Gary, I've been married to my wife for 35 years. I've never met someone I hated more and loved more in my life, and she says the same thing about me.
Hey, so tell us about your weekly convos with Mario. What's
by the way, I told Mario you were on the show tonight, and he was like, "Good choice, good choice."
Hey, good. I love him, man. I tell you what. So he texts me, and he goes, "Hey, I saw you talking shit on us." And I'm like, I'm not talking shit on you. I'm talking shit on people who think we're back. Mario, we're not back until we're undefeated. That's when we're back. To answer your question, Gary, I mean, winning. Hey, how about this? Don't win a bowl game. Win 10 games. We haven't won but 10 games once in 24 years. Mm-hmm. Do you know when Lamar and I were 10-1, we thought that was a loser season. 10-1 was a losing season. I gave one of those
rings away. I gave that ring away to somebody on spring break.
Hey, I'm sure she was about 6 feet, and anyway. So hey, yeah. All I'll say to you is we're 10-1. Man, God, all right, I guess so. That's not how it was. That was the standard. It's kind of like this too. think about Pittsburgh, the Steelers. Now the standard there in Pittsburgh is not having a losing season. Well, the standard in Pittsburgh used to be winning Super Bowls. Now it's not having losing seasons. Everyone sets the standard differently now. And at Miami, it's like, hey, Sills, are we back? Hey, win 10 games. Let me see that. Let's win 10 games and not get beat by North Carolina, the great hoop school. I mean, I don't want to be beat by hoop schools. Okay? I'm tired of getting beat by Duke and Carolina. Do you know how embarrassing that is? That when I see us getting beat by Duke and Carolina, I turn the TV off and I go, yeah, just don't talk to me, man. I get beat by Coach Krzyzewski second. I don't want to get beat any longer by Duke and Carolina. No,
So
thank you.
Does this look like a team that can do that, Sills?
Yes.
Can they run the table? Can they be
feel it.
there at the end?
Their enemy's them. Their enemy's going to be them. Okay? I mean, don't take anything for granted. You know, it's crazy. I look back on us. We never took anything for granted. We played 60 minutes of football every single game, no matter if it was against some crummy team like East Carolina or it was Oklahoma. Play 60 minutes, man. It was a different mindset. You know where I think that started, Gary? Is those 3-hour practices and inside drill. And, you know, I was talking to, because I get Butch and Jimmy and Dave on all the time. Those 3-hour inside drills, those legendary. Gary, listen to this. We would have at one time Lou Holtz, Barry Switzer, coaches from all over the country would watch us practice. And the thing they would say to us is, how do you get these guys to practice so hard? Somebody came up and they asked me that question, Joe Paterno, and I go like this. Look at Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind me. How do you think I'm going to play? I mean,
I was just about to bring that up. We practiced that way because the guy behind us, we could not let them get on the field.
Right.
And that's where
you'd be Wally pipped. Or you'd be Wally pipped.
Yep. And that's what I told Mario from day one when he got it. I said, we're 3 to 4 years away.
Gary, that's when we're back.
Depth.
That's when we're back. When you know what? When guys don't want to come off the field any longer because of the depth that's on the team, that's when you're back, because that's when the conveyor belt. How many times, Gary, did you see Miami would graduate all these guys, all of a sudden they're 12-0 again? You're like, what was that? What did that? Do you know the 87 team was our 86 team's backups? They were our backups that won that national title. And we're like, I mean, it just went on like that forever, or for at least 15, 18 years it went on like that. We got to get back to doing that.
I see you got a question for the great.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask him. I know right when you got on, you're kind of talking about that defensive line. I just want to kind of, get your thoughts on that unit, and obviously, getting Bain back. How big is that to just add in, another guy like that to a unit that's already firing on all cylinders?
I told Tolbert, I said, "Who's that kid? Is that related to you?" Tolbert goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Damn, Tolbert, this guy's better than you." Holy cow, man! I'm like, and so he's like, no, he's a good. I'll tell you what, that transfer, the kid from Tennessee, is it?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Tyler Barron.
That kid can play, and I'll tell you what, man, he's been a force in the first half of the season so far, and I like him. I like the two interior tackles. You got to remember something. When Jerome and I played, we were 300-pound guys. Man, back in '87, you didn't have 300-pound defensive tackles that ran 4.8s. That wasn't uncommon, man. I mean, but that looks like now it's back. They're dominating at the point of attack. They're getting great pressure. I like but I'll tell you this, Jason Taylor's done a whale of a job with the defensive line, and it looks like he really enjoys what he's doing. I don't think he'll be around UM too much longer, because somebody in the NFL will scoop him up and make him a D-line coach somewhere. But boy, I really like him a lot, man. He's done a whale of a job, and I think that front seven is the best front seven I see Miami have in about 15 years. And I think that's been the difference.
Should he do it? Should he give up being the D-line coach at the U, making the impact he's making right now with these kids, and go put himself through the National Football League ringer?
You know what's cool about him? He's got about $40 million in the bank.
I'm sure.
So he could probably just do this. Oh, what do I want to do? You know, most coaches do that stuff because they're trying to get elevated to be able to make a living for their family. Well, he don't have to worry about that. So this is going to be more about peace of mind and also about a comfort zone on what he wants to do. Maybe he wants to coach the Miami Dolphin D-line one day. Maybe that's something that he wants to transition into, going over to Miami and coaching on the Dolphins. But the cool thing about that guy is that you have a Hall of Famer engaged. You have a guy who wants to do it, and he has options to do whatever he wants. Most coaches don't have options to do whatever they want. He's got an option to do what he feels like. Maybe he wants to be the D coordinator of that program one day and elevate himself into that. Maybe he wants to be the head football coach one day.
Maybe he wants to go into modeling or some shit. I don't know, or acting. He can do it.
You know what? I can't focus on him because Joy comes on the show. She worked for me for about 6 years. You know, I helped her get her career going. So I'm not going to talk shit on Joy and her boy there because I actually like the kid there. I know you probably wanted Sapp to be the D-line coach there, but
no, you know what? Jason was my teammate with the Dolphins. I've known him since his rookie year.
Okay, good.
You know, I was excited when he got the opportunity because I knew I watched him at St. Thomas, and I knew he had that passion. And when he got the gig, I was excited because, you know, here it is. He would ask me questions when I was with the Dolphins about the Hurricanes. Because you think about it, he comes down here from Akron, and he was like, man, what was it like playing for the Hurricanes? Akron, the Zips.
Absolutely. Did you say zeros or zips?
Zips.
Okay.
He would ask me questions man, that had to be cool playing for and I'm thinking to myself, how did you even play at Akron? Like, what the hell? And then I found out his story about he was a receiver at one point. Then they put him in a DB, and then he moved down. I mean, like, it was an incredible story. So to see him and his progress, obviously getting into coaching, I knew he was going to be full. You know what I mean? He loves coaching, man. He really loves it.
How about Jimmy finding the linebacker kid from Texas Tech and finding Jason Taylor? And those guys turn out to be Hall of Famers. I'll tell you one thing about my coaching staff, and I say this all the time. I had the greatest coaching staff in the history of college football when it came to evaluating talent.
Yes.
I mean, Butch, get this. My GAs, graduate assistants, young man, do you know who my GAs were? My GAs were great. Were Chuck Pagano, and they were Tommy Tuberville.
Tommy Tuberville, yeah.
Those were my GAs. You know what that means? They would come to my bed and check for bed check. Hey, Sileo, you in there? Yeah, I'm in here. Those guys were our GAs. They used to pick up stupid shit. They didn't really have coaching positions. That's how deep our coaching staff was. Those were our GAs. My coordinator was Dave. Dave's the greatest defensive coordinator in Cowboy history. He's got 3 Super Bowls. Butch was my D-line coach. Harold Allen, I used to meet. We used to all go and see him when he was still at the Heck Center. We'd go over and see him. But Dave Campo, all these guys that we had, Wayne Fontz's brother was on our staff. We had Gary Stevens. I mean, Coach Wise was considered one of the top offensive line coaches in the NFL. And you had Coach Brodsky. You had Axe, the legendary Axe, and I'll leave it there. I mean, hey, all I will tell you is I had one of the greatest coaching staffs of all time. I never realized it on how great talent evaluators they were. I mean,
they were unbelievable.
Look at the guys like Lamar, man. I mean, these guys were like top people that they would find. How many recruiting trips? Well, Russell Maryland had 2 offers. He had 2 offers, I think, from Toledo, and I think he had it from the University of Miami. Cortez Kennedy came down on his recruiting trip. He had to go to junior college, I think. I think he went to a JC. I remember he came down with his mom, Rose, and Jerome goes, "We're taking this kid out." Look, we're taking this kid out where? He goes, his mom's got to come with us. I'm like, then you're taking him out. And he goes, no. He goes, no, we got to take the kid out. So we're taking the guy out. And Rose looks off. She goes, you know, my son wants to come here. Why should he come here? I go, well, he'll be legendary and he'll go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And she's like, why? I go, well, because they don't tolerate anything else but that here.
Mhm.
And Cortez is looking over at me, and I got invited to go to his Hall of Fame induction, and I did. And, he was really cool about it because, Jerome and I would take time with him. We would teach him. I remember Russell Maryland. Here's a story here, Lamar. So Russell used to fall down a lot his rookie year, and he didn't know how to play over his pads. And so he used to stumble a lot.
Mhm.
But me and Jerome were like, there's something there. He had great movement in his hips. He could turn the corner. He had a lot of talent. I remember Butch looking over at us going, I don't know. I don't see it. Me and Jerome looked over at him and goes, you're out of your mind. This guy's going to be a great football player. And he would come up to us always and go, hey, can you? So we would, after practice, Lamar, how many times did we help younger kids that came up and asked, and they would come and go, hey, can you spend some time with me? And can you do this? I mean, I remember that kid Curry, who transferred from Georgia Tech, used to come over and ask me. Shane Curry came over and goes, hey, can you spend some time? And I go, yeah, of course. I would never go out of my way to help anybody, but if someone asked me, I did. And so would everyone else on that team. And so I'm glad to see what we're seeing right now. And I think that's resonating, and that's why you're seeing a good football team right now.
So you said before, the little things, don't take anything for granted. This team is fighting itself right now in terms of that they're the toughest opponents themselves, whatever. These are young guys. How, you take, they're IC's age, they're young guys. No, they're younger than I, a little younger, but same idea. Like, how do you get them to process like that? And did some of that fall a little bit by the wayside last week in that Virginia Tech game, for example?
I think sometimes you get into games like that, and Gary, I think it's just what it is. I don't think they lost focus. I think Virginia Tech played a really good game. It played them down to the wire. It happens. I can't tell you how many times that we would get into games like that, but the resiliency of them pulling it out and winning, we lost games like that over the last 20 years. We didn't win games like that. We would lose games like that. And to me, I'll tell you this, that Georgia Tech nightmare of a year ago, that kind of also plays a factor in muscle memory. Okay. Don't take anything for granted. Now, here's the problem that this team has. They don't have championship pedigree. We had it. So it's easy for us, Lamar and I, to talk about it. Yep. Championship pedigree. That team has no idea what that means and what it looks like.
Right.
It's kind of like blind faith. I remember going down and talking to them a couple of years back when it came to Notre Dame, and I asked somebody, and I asked everyone in the room, I go, how many people here believe in God? Everybody put their hand up. I said, well, you have to have blind faith in religion. I go, you don't really know what's going to happen in religion. I said, it's the same thing with your coach's process. You don't really know what's going to happen, but you have faith that you believe your coaches are going to take you across the finish line. And so you have to have that blind faith. And how that blind faith gets built up is with consecutive winning. All of a sudden you're like, holy shit, we won. Unbelievable. We're winning. We're undefeated. We're ranked high. Great. Then you have to learn how to deal with that. Wow. That means there's a lot more pressure on us. Yeah, that means you're a bullseye, dude. You're no longer the arrow. You're the bullseye.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a different, hey, when you're the bullseye, hey, I remember playing against Tulsa. I'm like, how did we only beat them 21-14? I mean, I'm like, man, they played their great. The coach goes, we played the greatest game in our program's history. And I'm going like, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what happened here. We had just got through beating Oklahoma. And I'm going like, what are we doing? So again, it's championship pedigree. They don't have that. So they don't have a lot to lean on. What I think you do is you lean on your failures when you're not a team of championship pedigree. All that stuff 7-6 from a year ago. 6 games used to take us 14 years to lose. So I'd be like, hey, man, just think about all the things that happened last year when you guys were a little bit too soft, didn't want to get off the airplane because it was too cold out, playing the bowl game. I mean, Lamar's from Florida too, man. I mean, I know him too, man. He goes up to them Northern Bowl games, man. He's one of them guys too going, shit, it's a little too hot, a little too cold up here for me. Man, how many times we go up to like Cincinnati in November? All the guys from Florida goes, I've never seen snow before. What the hell are you talking about? The Miami guys hate snow.
Oof. Boy, that's always even trying to figure out where I want to coach. I'm like, well, I don't want to go up north because I don't know how to teach a person how to catch in the cold weather because I've never caught in cold weather.
Lamar, when I heard we were going to the Pinstripe Bowl, I go, that's an L. There's no way we're winning that thing.
I said the same thing.
There's
no way
they're winning that thing with 22 degrees. I don't care. It's Yankee Stadium. They ain't winning that thing, man. They don't give a shit about that bowl game. And by the way, for me, like I told people, man, if that were me today, hey, Sills, you want to go to the game that's got blue carpet and the Frito-Lay Bowl or the Chip Bowl, whatever that is in Boise, I'd be like, I think Big Sills is going to sit this one out. I only play on New Year's. Hey, I only play on New Year's, man.
Hey, man, I got to tell you, you know what? I knew coming on the show tonight, I was going to laugh my ass off. You are a national treasure, and we definitely appreciate you spending a little time with us, man. Anytime you want to come on, just come on, man. I'll just send you the link every week. You come on in. Just come on in and just say, hey, what's going on here?
Hey, you know this, man. You know how much I love you. You know, you always be one of my guys. You were when you were a young kid coming into the program. Jimmy said this kid's going to be special, and you were special. Okay, you know, all them guys are my guys. We're all together in this thing here. I tell people this all the time. Every team that I ever played with, I loved. I mean, that's the coolest thing about our program is that I loved every guy we had. I mean, there wasn't a guy on that team, whether it was Ernie Parrish, who barely played, or it was any of them dudes. I loved every one of them guys because we all had a fondness for one another, and we all had a direction to want to be a champion. And it was, outside of my daughter and my family, it's the greatest time of my life.
Well, just so you know, and I'll end by letting you know, I just went in the weight room just to make sure that name was still up there.
There. Hey, you know what's crazy about being Fagan? Get this. So my 535, The Rock comes on my show a lot. And Dwayne goes like this, you and Fagan's records will never be broken. It's just not happening. I mean, I was 19 years old. I did 535. Kevin did 560. And those records are up there, 37 years, I think they are now. Wow. And Rock goes, dude, those records will never be broken. And I'm like, yeah, you got to remember too, Kevin ran a 4.6 and I ran a 4.8 at 305. So it wasn't just weight room guys, man. I mean, we had it's a true testament there. And you know what, Lamar, if you remember them weight rooms, man, when I first got there, Gary, I looked at the weight room. They had a squat rack. It was in a shed. And it had rusty weights. And I go, where's the weight room? They go, that's it. And the weight room they have now, they were building it out. And it was getting bigger and bigger. And the thing you see now, I didn't have any of that shit. But you know what's funny? We won 3 national titles in a shed. Mm-hmm. I didn't win it with all that fancy stuff you got now and that nice indoor thing. And hey, how many times this, Lamar, you're sitting outside there, all of a sudden you see some clouds rolling in. I'm from Connecticut. I never saw lightning strikes. I didn't know what the hell that shit was. Boom!
Everybody take off running.
Everybody take off running into the heck. You're like, hey, get me out of here, man. Get me out of here. Then we had Green Tree.
And we still had to go out and finish.
We did. We went back. Right. Green Tree is such hallowed land. I mean, the Orange Bowl's not around, so the Green Trees place champions.
Yeah, it is, man. We definitely appreciate you, man. And I could do this anytime. So anytime, man, I'll send you the link. Thank you so much for coming on, man. You are a national treasure. We love you, brother.
Yes, sir. Great seeing you again, Dan.
Youngster, did you learn anything?
I did. I was well versed in a little bit, but it's always good hearing different stories. I didn't know they were handing out Corvettes like Halloween candy. So that's
I didn't say that.
Hey, that was so long ago.
The NIL before the NIL.
Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Gary. So here, one last one here. So I'm pulling up, got the roof off, got the tees down. I'm pulling up to a light. I see this guy behind me going, hair's going all over the joint. I'm like, what the hell is that? I go, fuck, it's Jimmy. I pull over and I'm going like, where'd you get this car? You know they're all over us. I found it. He goes, you found it. Get the hell out of here. I want you in you're off the team. I'm like, what? And I go, I'm in the office because you're off the team, but you're not off the team. He goes, do me a favor, get rid of the car. If I see it again, I'm going to bury you in the car. And I go, okay, where do you want me to hide it? He goes, I don't care what you do with it. First off, foremost, where'd you get the car? I said, well, you signed for it, coach. He went, what do you mean I signed for it? I go, well, I got the insurance policy from Lloyd's of London for $700,000. And I went to the bank and got a loan for $35,000 and I got the car and Anthony gave it to me. Anthony Abraham gave you this car? I go, how much did he charge you? I go, well, $1 a month. Hey, Monty Prater is going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Holy cow. He used to, hey, how about those cards he used to give us to go over to the restaurant?
Yes.
I felt like I was like some mobster guy. Hey, here's my card. And they'd go, okay, so he gets 3 entrees, a main deal, and no drinks. No drinks. I go between him and Dave Hill over at the tourist room. Okay, you'd be like, okay, so I had these cards, and they would give us a whole list of these cards, and Monty would go, okay, so I get 2 appetizers. Okay, I get an entree, and I get a dessert. So I had like 5 or 6 of these cards, and God, I'm so happy that he's going to the Hall of Fame. What a great guy. I got to get out of here, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man. We love you, brother.
Thank you,
Love
Sills.
you too, man. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, man. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, make sure you post this to me, man. I want so everyone can see it because this was a fun time.
We will.
All right, man.
We'll
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All righty, Dan.
Gotta
love
back
him.
of my head is hurting because I laugh so damn much, man. He is a national treasure. He is truly.
I didn't know what to think.
I'm telling you, it's just awesome hearing different stories. So like I said, I used to see all these people on TV when ESPN will run 30 for 30s, and it's just like crazy. It's just like meeting everybody, seeing everybody, hearing their stories first person. So I'm just soaking it all in and enjoying it.
He's like the white Michael Irvin. You just let him go. You throw a little bit of meat out there and let him eat, and they just
let him eat.
He's awesome. He is awesome. I'm telling you, I just knew today that I was gonna be laughing because he loves University of Miami, and that's what it's all about. The passion that he talked about to get kids to come here and love it and want to be here. That's when it changes.
No doubt.
Someone in the comment section was like, they need to get him and Kelvin on the same show. I'd be like, man, they break the internet together.
Guys, man. At some point, I'm gonna get Mike on here. I just don't know. We might have to do a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
He'll just talk. As you saw him at the game on the sideline, he was giving motivational speeches and shit. He was sweating. He was spitting.
Unbelievable.
Jason was like, I loved all of it except when he kissed me on the top of my head. He was so excited.
All right, let's get back to ball, but before we do, let's hear from our buddies over at CaneSport.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
Yeah, guys, it really is the spot where Miami fans shop, no matter what you could possibly want. You see the store behind me here on the show tonight. T-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, flags, decals, magnets, men, women, kids, babies, pets. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want, whatever you need. Man, you should see when Lamar's kids walk in the store. Holy cow, man. Talk about a hurricane. They start eyeballing all that different stuff with the U on it. And it's a sight to behold. But listen, they have gear for the Dolphins, the Panthers, Inter Miami, anything you really could want, you can get at CaneSport. So go by the store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. Easy stop on game day. You can get a sub. Lamar can tell you all about La Spada, the best subs in town. They'll hook you up for your tailgate. And then if you can't make it to the store, go to caneswear.com. But make sure you do get yourself all geared up. It's a special season, and you're going to want to be showing off here if this team can continue the run that it's on. So CaneSport is where it's at. All right, LT. So survived Virginia Tech. Survived the Hail Mary, where we had to put a receiver out there on the field. I'm sure you were excited to see that. Survived the turnovers of Cam Ward, who he had problems with that early in his career now. And so far at Miami he hadn't, but it kind of returned a little bit, and he's going to have to be more aware of that moving forward. We talked about the need to develop a running game, maybe take a little of the load off him. You don't want to take too much off. I mean, we heard with Sileo. All right, so now you got a whole different set of challenges this week. You got to get on a plane. They're leaving tomorrow to get acclimated to the West Coast. You got to go all the way out there, 6-hour flight. You got to get used to West Coast time. A bunch of guys are going to want to get up at 6 a.m. and watch game day with the Canes on game day. I'm sure they'll get Mario to come on the show. It's 7 a.m. out there, knowing them. And there's just going to be a lot going on. Okay. How do they channel it all and come out and play a great game on Saturday night against Cal?
Just listening to Mario talk today, just, letting them guys know that it's going to be a very important 72 hours, Going to be a very important time in their lives when they get an opportunity to go out west, national exposure. I think he's keeping it real with them. He's letting them know that, hey, man, we're going to give you all the tools. You just got to go out and do what you're supposed to do. And I really believe that he's going to try to flatten the ball a little bit, run the ball, and the game plan like I thought it was going to be against Virginia Tech, as far as run the ball, be able to make some play action passes. They do have I think one really good DB, a linebacker that's a thumper. They got a pretty decent team, and they've shown it. They gave Florida. I want to say they gave Florida State a good run, but we don't know if Florida State's good or bad, but you can maybe attribute it to them having to go all the way across the country too.
Twice after they already beat Auburn.
Yes. So this is I remember going to Cal. We played Cal, and we went out there and we scored early, and then they returned the kick, and it was a battle for like the first and second quarter. I mean, we were, it was just one of those things where I think we had lost to BYU that year. And so we had to play Cal. And, they were jacked up. Their fans were, they got people up in the trees. You'll be able to see this people living in trees up there and stuff, students. It's a weird environment. They got a gun up there, a big old cannon. It's an interest. Everybody's walking by in Birkenstocks. Everybody has Birkenstocks. Like, they're smoking weed out there too, and they're drinking wine. So, it's an interesting environment, man. And, you got to go out there and, I listened to Mario today. I think he's telling them all the right stuff, but it's up to those kids to do the right thing. Like you said, if you got to get your rest, you got to get rested for the game. You can't be on and thinking that at the time we're playing, it's 10:30 at night. You got to think about it as we're playing this game. You can't think about, hey, it's 10:30. I'm usually about to go to the club, so you should be in your second win. So it's a lot that goes into it, but as long as the game plan is together, I think we should be fine. It's just making sure that these guys understand and believe.
I mean, you did it a million times in your career, long trips to the West Coast. What's it like as a player? Like, what does that mean?
It's just like, you get up and you're just like, what time is it? That's the first thing you're so off. It's like off. And if you get out there a day before, you do get a little bit of time to acclimate to it, but it's different weather. I mean, you're just off. And as long as the coach has you on a regimented schedule to compare to what it is at home, you should be okay. It's just, you get up in the morning, like you said, the game day is going to be at 6 a.m. and the guy's going to wake up and they're going to start watching it.
Yeah.
And you gotta get yourself back in the bed and say, okay, close the blinds. Let me get some more rest. It's especially when you're in college, you got your teammates, you got your roommate, and you're talking to each other and stuff. And the pros is obviously different. You're by yourself in your room, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But I really believe, they might not have the championship pedigree yet, but they do have leaders on that team. Mm-hmm. And just watching the leadership group meet today on that team, watching them meet with Mario, it was very refreshing to see those guys meeting and talking for a little bit and coming away with some positive stuff. So I think they'll be ready. I really do.
What do you think I see? You've taken a few long plane rides in your life. I see. You should hear about one day, Lamar. We got to tell you about his summer vacations. I mean, you've never seen anything like what this guy does in the summertime. But we'll save that for another time. But I'll just leave it at, I see you've taken some long flights in your time, and what do you think about this challenge of going out west for this single game?
So my experience on long flights, getting there, you got all the energy in the world, but a day or two in, you're like, damn, I miss home sometimes. And obviously, they're not getting there the same exact day. I think they're getting there tonight or tomorrow morning. So they're gonna have some time to relax, sit down, and things like that. I hope that doesn't kind of play against them, that they're kind of getting comfortable over there and things like that. You're there for a business trip. You're not there to see the trees and the Birkenstocks and all that stuff. You're there to kick some behind and fly back to Miami. But I think they'll handle business, over there in California. I had the chance to, every week we look at the teams and their previous matchups. They're 3-1. They could be 4-0, but they really have not played anybody. Like that schedule, like people like to say, oh, Miami hasn't played anybody. They beat like UC Irvine, San Diego State, who's 1-4, Auburn, who I could play quarterback for them and they'd probably be better. And then they beat Florida State in a game that I watched, and I was like, man, I just bet on Cal and they lost my money. So I was even more mad that they lost. But, they have their defensive numbers are good. But like I said, I watched that Auburn game and Peyton Thorne was throwing up, like he was playing jackpot. Like this one's for 500. Who catches it? This one's 4,000. It was just like, a lot. But I am confident Miami's going to go out there. They're going to handle business and, come back to Miami, be happy, have the parties, live up to, what Lamar and those guys used to do back in the day. But I think they handle business out on the West Coast for sure this weekend.
Over under Ruben Bain, 2 sacks.
Oh, that's one thing I wanted to mention too. In their last 2 games, they've given up 13 sacks. 13 to San Diego State and Florida State. They have Florida State's defensive lineman looking like Jared Verse was back there, killing people at college again. So I definitely think this is a perfect game for Ruben Bain to come back and kind of really, show the country why he was a freshman All-American last year and say, hey, I might have been down for a little bit, but I'm back for the rest of the year and make a statement.
And they got a few guys on offense, but nothing too scary. A couple running backs, a tight end that's supposed to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jaden Ott, he isn't 100%. He's dealing with a leg injury, but they have another running back, 25, who's a bit of a speed. So they kind of have that, power and speed kind of thing. And then obviously we know about Mendoza, the deep ties to Miami, the Columbus guy, the tight end that you mentioned. Really, he's kind of I'm not going to say a matchup nightmare because his numbers aren't jumping off the board, but he is a pretty fast, tight end that is a little bit faster than tight ends, a little bit bigger than safety. So you're going to have to find that kind of tweener matchup for him. Maybe throw Wesley Bassane on him. That'll be a good matchup in my opinion. But they do have some weapons. Obviously, they're a good program. They're 3-1, but I just haven't been overly impressed from what I saw, from them these first 4 games of the year.
Should be a motivated Miami team. They know they didn't play their best last week. I think it was a little bit of a circle the wagons time for the whole program. What Dan said really holds true. This is not a championship pedigree. 5-0, yes, but there's not a championship pedigree in this program yet. This is a program that's learning its way all over again. And the little things really, 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 obviously do matter, LP. I mean, but even Cam Ward, the best player on the team, Sileo, the best player we've had in 20 something years, Sileo seeing it. He's never won anything,
Well, the one good thing we can take away from it is that he's played on the West Coast, so maybe he can educate the other guys. He knows what goes on the West Coast. Maybe he can educate them. But you're right. He hadn't really won anything. But I think him being around this program and seeing all the championship pedigree is kind of rubbing off on him. And hopefully he can continue to lead us to what they see on the walls around the building. And that's a pretty good thing. If he can do that and continue to do it, and those guys listen to him, and it's amazing to watch him at practice, and the communication that has been lacking between quarterback and players, quarterback and running backs, quarterback and tight ends, quarterback and linemen. I see him talking to everybody. And, I didn't see this the last couple of years. I didn't see this on. I'm not trying to crap on TVD, but I didn't see that out of him. Nobody talked to him. He just was kind of on his own page, and except for Rhett. Rhett was the only one that talked to him, because Rhett obviously was telling him where to throw. So, this guy is really bringing it together. It's a lot of personalities on that offense. You're deep at running back. You're deep at receiver. You're deep at tight end. You got offensive linemen. We're deep at that too. But you got to be able to keep everybody happy in a way. And I think just by watching him in practice, I've been very impressed by the way he handles himself in practice the same way he handles himself in the game. I haven't seen anything different.
All right, let's take a couple minutes here real quick and hit some of these questions that have been coming in. LM says the Miami offensive line doesn't know how to open up holes. And Dolphin Derek wants to know how our running game was compared to the wide receiver game when you played. We've talked about the importance of establishing the run. I see. Yeah. Why don't you take this? How big is that for Miami this week? Establish the run, take a little bit of the pressure off Cam Ward.
I think it's going to be huge. And, I'm going to say this might come off sounding weird. I hope Mario Cristobal proves Justin Wilcox right. Because like you mentioned in the show, he said Damien Martinez was one of the best running backs he faced all year last year. I hope he's saying that coming out of the game on Saturday. I think Damien Martinez is a very, very, very good running back. Obviously, when he jumped in the portal, everybody was, salivating over him, chasing him, 1,000-yard rush at Oregon State, over 6 yards per carry. I'm just waiting for the game where, we can say, hey, I told you so about this young man, and I really, really do hope it's against Cal. Like I said, they have, good defensive numbers, but I just really, really haven't been impressed with the competition they played and all that stuff. And the same thing could be said about Miami, and I don't want to sound like, homer and all this stuff, but I really do think, this is the game that, Damien Martinez can really, shine and show them, hey, this is where I was at Oregon State, back on the West Coast. Obviously, everybody's going to be tuned into Cam Ward, and this is your time to say, take the spotlight and, do your thing.
I hope so, man. I've been taking a beating from the fans, LT. I mean, I'm a believer in Damien Martinez. I've watched him last year at Oregon State. I've watched his tape. I know why they brought him here. They know that they need tough inside running at different points during the season. But Pinellas Kane does ask a really good question. The running game has seemed kind of simple. A lot of runs up the middle, really just a handful of plays. I mean, it's not a very complicated running game. Do they need to add some variety to the running game? Get outside maybe a little bit more and just inject a little bit more variety in the run game for it to be successful?
I think they have those plays in. I think they have those guys to do it. You take any of those other than the first two running backs, those guys that are behind them, you got Martinez and you got Fletcher. They can give you that ground out game, but then you have all those guys behind you, AJ, 24, who's the other guy? Jordan.
Lyle.
I mean,
Jordan Lyle.
You got these guys that can make those plays for you. It's just that, maybe coach is saving it, but they have shown that they can get outside those guys. Those other guys are downhill. They're gonna make you pay, especially in the fourth quarter. Those guys. So it's a great luxury to have. You can go any way, and those guys also show, those little shifty guys have shown that they also can run between the tackles and get yards too. So I think it goes back to that question earlier where, it's a luxury to have all those guys. So, even though it's only one football out there, and sometimes only one running back, it still is a luxury to have the change of pace guys that we have. Any of them can, as we've seen, can take it to the house at any given moment. So that's a good thing.
I see Jake says that Virginia Tech humbled the Canes. What do you think?
I mean, it's a hard one. I wouldn't necessarily say humbled them, but kind of, give them a little slap like, hey, wake up. I would say humbled would have been if they lost. You get knocked off your pedestal, you get humbled. I think this was a kind of little alarm. Your alarm went off. Now it's time to really wake up. You're an ACC player. You're not, in the non-conference schedule anymore. Everyone's going to give you your best shot. Everyone's going to try to knock you off your pedestal. But I definitely think this was a game that was much needed. Like I said earlier in the show, I've been saying, hey, give them some type of fight, give them something. And I said, we got it. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, a little bit too much now, but they made it through it.
Jake also wants to get your outlook on the season. Your ball, he says.
Yeah, like I just said, I've been asking for a challenge. They got it. Well, let's see how they respond. You can either, come out this upcoming week and just, flatline Cal from, the start to the finish. Obviously last week, they kind of got off slow with the Cam, fumble and the Cam interception and things like that. Let's see if they can come out this week, play some clean ball against Cal on the road, really, really far. Like a lot of different things are factored in this. Let's see if they can kind of diminish those factors, just play Miami football, come away with the clean W. Don't have, announcers saying, oh, they should have lost this and that. Don't leave any doubt. Don't leave it up to the refs. Come out, dominate, and do your thing.
All right, Ellen. All right, we got a female viewer, Lamar. She's talking about how the refs did Miami right by calling it right, and it took them 7 minutes to get to that decision. Listen, the ref on the field screwed up. He should have called it incomplete and let them review whether it was a catch, not vice versa. But at the end of the day, really all that mattered was that they did get it right.
All right, let me be honest, guys. I wasn't going to say this, but so I filmed the last play. I was up in the suite. I filmed the last play, and I saw we were excited. We were jumping around. I saw Horton run out of run out of there with holding the ball with that weird number on. I'm like, all right, we won. Then I saw Virginia Tech jumping up. I said, oh, hell no. I walked out the stadium. I was on the way to my car, and I got to tell you, I was looking for any Virginia Tech fan to come up to me and say something. They were going to be a national champion. I promise you. And I got about 10 feet from the car, and I heard the and I said, thank you. Because how many times have we been screwed on the calls? You think about that Georgia Tech. The Florida State, we had the guy in the end zone. They didn't call it a safety. I think that was Florida State, or maybe it was Clemson. But both. It's just and I saw the replay, and I'm like, okay, nobody caught the ball, so the game's over. But seeing Virginia Tech run around, jump around, I was like, oh hell no! Nah. I didn't even take the elevator down, guys. I walked down the stairs. I was so pissed. And so when I got into the car, not 10 feet away from the car, I heard the crowd, and I was just happy that it finally went our way. You know, for so long we've had to suffer through things not going our way. So to have that happen, and to show the guys showed some fight to be able to come back, because it was a comeback, and win that game, it was a good thing. I think it's going to bode well for them.
We haven't talked a lot of defense tonight, but Bama Bob says Miami's defense is weak. I don't know if he's a Bama fan. If he's a Bama fan, I mean, I wouldn't be talking too much about defense based on what I saw.
Hey, Bama Bob, why don't you go watch that bald-headed dude? Go watch the dude that looks like a pencil or something. What's his name? What's the guy on the SEC network?
Feinbaum.
Feinbaum.
Yeah, go watch Feinbaum, man. Get off our show, bro. Go on, Bama Bob. We don't want you.
But if he is a Miami fan, listen, they're like, the defense didn't have a great night the other night. They struggled a little bit, no argument. A lot of guys that had been playing great for whatever reason, were they banged up, were they dehydrated, struggling with the heat, whatever it was. I mean, we saw Kiko Manoa miss a tackle that ended up being a house touchdown. We've never seen that
with a guy with a knee brace on. That's what hurt me too.
Yeah. But I mean, we did see a lot of some stuff in that game that we hadn't been seeing earlier in the year. How does the Miami defense respond? Lamar, you were at practice today. How do they respond beginning this week?
Oh, you just, you got to make plays, man. We didn't make the plays we were supposed to make. Talking to the defensive coordinator, he talked about even like we had things set up. We had sacks, but guys just didn't do what they were supposed to do. As far as, he told them, hey, the guy's going to see you coming. He's a smart quarterback. He's going to duck up under you. He basically told them what the game plan was for the quarterback. But, guys, for some reason, just didn't do what they were supposed to do as far as, containing him and getting and breaking down. He's going to come back to you. So it's just one of those things where, hopefully, and I do believe this, that just from watching and being around today, that they'll be better. They'll be better. They will definitely be better.
All right, I see. We're going to let you go. Any parting thoughts for us as Miami gets ready to travel out to Cal?
It's going to be a late night, everybody. So get your midday naps in. Everybody on the East Coast, 10:30 kickoff. I don't want to see anybody saying, hey, I fell asleep and missed the whole game. Want to see everybody on the message boards, on Twitter, on everything, going crazy till 2:30 a.m. If you got to, send your tweets out from the club, go ahead and do that. But we're ready to see how it goes on Saturday night for sure. I'm excited.
All right, man. Well, go get some sleep yourself. It's going to be a long weekend for us here at CaneSport. We got to stay up late and cover that 10:30 game. So thanks, as always, for being part of the Lamar Thomas Show.
Thank
All
you,
right,
guys.
I see. I see about to go to the club.
Right, see, man, he didn't get to get a word in for like about an hour there.
But I see about to go to the club, man. It's supposed to be nice being young like that. He about to go to Live or one of those Fountain Blue or whatever those places. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's when it's Sileo night, man. It's Sileo night.
Takes over.
All right, let me get rid of this and let's finish up tonight, Lamar, with some word association.
All right.
Let's go with a little unusual one first. How about Fernando Mendoza? You know who he is?
That's a quarterback from Columbus, I think. He was he's a guy that was down here that, he went out to Cal, and it turned out to be a good deal for him. It's just one of those things where it didn't work out down here. He most likely wanted to be a guy or a Florida State guy, but he went out to Cal, and it is what it is. But one of the things I like is what I heard, that he won't diss either program because he grew up watching these guys. So he's a Florida guy. He's just out in California playing ball, trying to get better and better himself. So I love the fact that he was able to get an opportunity somewhere else and show his work. And so I'm pretty sure that the people out in Cal, they really love him. So it's South Florida love everywhere.
The Canes return to game day on Saturday. That's always an exciting time. I don't know if I'm going to like the 6 o'clock wake up. I'm going to have to get to watch the show, but I got to watch it. I mean, when you're on game day, you're on game day. How about Lee Corso?
Man, I mean, how old is he now?
Got to be like 80, right?
Yeah, Coach Corso, he's 80. I mean, he's they still got him on there. He's still giving his one-liners, and he's been around a long time, man.
Oh my God, no, he's 89, Lamar. He's 89 years old.
Well, that's even 9 years more than I thought. So
wow,
he's been around a long time. So people continue to tune in and give him his flowers, man, because he's been doing it a long time. And when I watch him, he's slowed down a lot, but I still have to think about the times when I was younger watching him with so much energy. These young kids don't even know what he used to do and how he used to do it. So for us older people to watch him slow down, we're just like, wow. But he's still doing it. So I give him kudos. He's like Dick Vitale, man. He's they still doing their thing.
Institutions. It's like, so what?
Yeah.
He's not as quick as he was. He stumbles sometimes. I mean, people want to throw him off the show. Come on, man. Kudos to ESPN for sticking by their guy and appreciating somebody that's brought so much to them for so many years. And let me tell you something else, Lamar. I'm going to be fired up as hell to see him put that Ibis head on this, because damn well.
There you go.
In this
game.
You go. It's been a long time. I can't remember the last time we saw Lee put on the Ibis head.
Yeah, it has been.
It's been a while. I mean, maybe it's happened in the last 20 years, but not many times. I'll tell you that. So, all right. Let me throw another little different one at you here.
All right.
Hail Mary.
So, obviously, when you think of Hail Mary, for me, first thing pops up in my head was Boston College, Doug Flutie, Hail Flutie. And my first touchdown in the NFL was a Hail Mary against Chicago Bears. Yeah, against Chicago Bears. Greg Erickson threw it. Yeah, first touchdown in the NFL in Chicago. We were getting beat like 35-0, I think, and like 60-some yarder, 67. It bounced off High C's chest, and I was trailing. I caught it, and I had to run over Mark Carey to get in the end zone. And the reporters asked me after the game, "Why celebrate?" I said, "Why celebrate? You're asking me why celebrate? Did you not watch me in college? And this is my first touchdown, fool. Oh shit! I don't care. We were losing 100-0, but that's what I think of Hail Mary. And then for Virginia Tech to get all the way down to the 35, they were in the 35, right? I was thinking that maybe they were going to run a crossing or something, roll one way and throw it back the other way. But they had a play, and it was very genius. They put a big, tall kid in there, and they were going to go down and box out and throw it up, and they executed it. It's just that we had a tall guy in there too. Kudos to our defensive coordinator for putting Horton back there, because if Horton's not back there, we don't have any height.
Yep.
We don't have any height, and that's definitely the case. They had some basketball players in that mug. So, I mean, kudos to our defensive coordinator for the foresight to put a kid like that back there and believe in him, and thank God it was out of bounds, so we won.
You caught your first NFL touchdown on a Hail Mary. But what do you think of the play in general? I mean, it's so hard to defend. There's a lot of luck involved, but people come up with different ways of attacking it, batting balls to teammates, things like that. Yeah. What do you think of the Hail Mary play in general?
It's a play, man. It really is a play. You just you have to have a quarterback with a strong enough arm to get it down there. But if you have, it's something that on every team I coached on, we practice, whether it's having guys trail or go down and post up, or a guy, posting up and the ball being behind and having a guy go all the way around to be in the back, because guys want to tip the ball. And sometimes when they tip it, it pops backwards. So there are all kind of strategies to it. But it's still one of the most exciting plays in football. And, every year there's like 3 or 4 Hail Marys in college football that make you go, wow, can't believe that. And it's a very exciting play. Again, I'm glad it worked for us.
Yeah, they worked for us this time. I don't want to see too many more of them. Wow. All right, Cam Ward.
Cam, my man, just continue to be a leader. Don't try to force it. Let the game come to you. just continue to do your thing, man. Just don't try to force it. Depend on that running game a little bit, and it's going to open up stuff for you later on. But don't try to force it. You don't have to. Right now, you don't have to win the game. We shouldn't be in a situation like we were against Virginia Tech where he had to win the game. And it all comes from the beginning. And like one of the viewers said, we almost were up 21-7, and it would have been a different ball game. So we'll see. West Coast Cam. Let's see what you got, baby.
That's right. And let's finish with Mario Cristobal.
Hey, man. He is he is on one, and he realizes what he has right here in front of him, and he's just trying to make sure these guys are just as passionate and just as prepared as we were back in the days. And he's fired up, man. He is truly fired up. But hey, that's what he was as a player too. So it's great to watch. And we got all these guys that are behind him. Obviously now since the Dolphins are not doing well, we're gonna have more bandwagon fans. So we got to go out and win this game. And I think he knows that, because if we continue to win, we will get these. As we know, South Florida, the more we win, more people will come. So I think he knows that from previous experiences. This ain't Alabama where they're gonna show up because they ain't got nothing to do. So this is South Florida.
Before we go, I got to give a shout out to Jennifer Miller. You might be our only female viewer, Jennifer. We don't know that, but thank you so much for watching us. Hopefully every week. And I promise to never ever say again that women don't watch, because you're proving that I was wrong on that. So
we had a lady earlier that asked a question too. Don't forget.
Yeah. So
we appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, since I know women to watch, I'll shave up a little bit. All right.
All right, LT, we got to thank Dan Sileo for carrying the middle part of the show. Always a great pleasure to have him on, and a special time when we do. Usually once a year we bring Sills on, and just a very unique guy and very talented in broadcasting. And so it was great to have him on. Thank you to him. Got to thank CaneSport for sponsoring the show. Yet again, remember, if you need anything CaneSport is the place to get it. You can visit their store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or go to caneswear.com. Also got to thank all you guys for watching. And the Canes go to Cal this week. It's going to be an interesting road trip. I'm looking forward to it. Boy, the time change is going to be goofy with the night game, but we'll power through, hopefully come home with a dub, and we'll be back here next week to talk about it. So thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Go Canes.